What's up, everybody? Welcome to the last God of War video on the channel for the foreseeable future, anyway, and the very first video for the Why I Love series. This series, and this is my most anticipated series. This is why I started making YouTube videos, because I wanted a space to, kind of just talk about why I enjoy video games as a medium so much, and I can only torture the people in my life with that subject so much. So I'm gonna just put it out here, and hopefully you all like it. Um, God of War Ragnarok. I told you guys how much this game meant to me. Just I only scratched the surface though. Like when I tell you this game was amazing, it broadened my perspective as a young man. I look back on my life because of this game, and I can reflect more. I want to grow because of certain subjects in this game. Like, they'll probably think I'm gassing it, but I'm not. I'm not. And I'm going to break it down into a couple of sections. I don't want to make this video super duper long, but I need to get these thoughts out here. So I think it's going to be maybe 3-4 sections, and I'm going to break down my thoughts. The gameplay that you're seeing in the background is some post-game content. I fought GOWR, I fought the King of the Berserkers, and just some other stuff. You're going to see me die a couple times. Don't judge me. They're the hardest bosses in the game. But I beat them both in the same day, which was really impressive for me. Anyway, we're not here to talk about how good I am at the game. We're here to talk about how good the game is at being the game. So, without further ado, here is the Why I Love series. So first, I kind of want to get into how it was playing this game from being obviously someone's son, and just putting myself in Atreus' shoes. And I could really, if you guys watch the series, you could tell I was rough on him at first, but as the missions went on and stuff like that, I was trying to be more understanding of his teen angst and talking to himself when he's mad at Kratos, when he especially when he's like, "Oh, I'm trying to save you, you big dumb idiot." I feel like we've all said stuff when our parents weren't around. I was like, yeah, that's a little relatable, even if I'm mad at him. But I think this was a really good showing of how a son can communicate with his father. And later on, I'll talk about how a father can communicate with his son. But Atreus, we saw that at first he didn't know how to communicate. He was being deceitful and stuff like that. And I can relate to that. I didn't communicate with my parents very well. I didn't feel like I could tell them stuff. And as I grew older and I started being more honest, I got surprising reactions. And I think one line that really stuck out to me was when Atreus said, "See what I can do when you trust me." And that, as a young man, to know that your parents trust you means a lot. So I know that was important for Atreus. I'm sure that'll be important for, some younger kids. Well, not younger. If you're younger than 18, why are you playing this? But anyway, anybody that's young-ish could relate to wanting their parents being able to trust them and that you can be open and honest with them. That was my perspective with Atreus. But just speaking on the character alone, he was great. Like I loved him. He wasn't my favorite. I have to say maybe Angrboda was my favorite new character or character in general in the game, even though we saw very, very little of her. But not Kratos. We're gonna talk about him next. Atreus was. It was beautiful seeing him mature. He is my son, and I think anybody who played this game is like, yeah, that's my son. Not in a weird way, not in a delusional way, but just in a way that you see this young man grow up from, think he was 10 in the last game, and I know for a fact he's 13 in this one. So seeing him grow and being able to speak his mind and handle his own to the point where Kratos can trust him to be, responsible, that was huge. And especially being able to play as him and be actually in his shoes, that was very entertaining and insightful as well because we get to get deeper into his mind, like any teenager. Yeah, any teenager. Because I don't care what you say. You've talked to yourself before. I don't care if you think that's weird. You've done it, especially as a teenager. And he's letting us know his thoughts. Damn, I messed up. I shouldn't have gone to Asgard. Or my dad's being unreasonable. Oh, damn, I'm a screw up. That was really important, I think, for us. And obviously, we're not going to get into the mind of a 10-year-old. In the first one, because that game was more about Kratos learning to get into the mind of a 10-year-old. Now it's way bigger than that. But we'll get into that subject matter in just a little bit. But yeah, Atreus was a breath of fresh air. And just really all of the kid characters, I'm going to say children characters. So Thrud, I think Skilder, and Angrboda were the only kids who were like, the only characters that were younger, but they were all great. Thrud was so much mature than Thor. It was amazing to see her pick her father up and tell him, "Look, dude, you messed up, but we still love you." Angrboda living on her own, standing up to her grandmother, and even seeing the good in her, regardless of the messed up stuff she does to animals. Like Atreus was ready to kill that old lady, and Gerbold was like, "No, she's just hurting." I think that's really important to recognize when the people in our lives are hurting instead of messed up. And now that I'm even saying that out loud, that's teaching me some things. So I'm telling you guys, this game it teaches you. It's not just about cutting off God's heads. You get into the insight of a child who is being forgiving of an adult who is hurting. And that's some strong stuff, man. Really good stuff. So yeah, Atreus was a standout this game. His gameplay was phenomenal. And I know next game's gonna be for him. I hope it is anyway. I'm very satisfied with where we're at with Kratos, and I hope Atreus gets a lot more shine in another game because I think he deserves it. He definitely deserves for us as the players to see how much he's grown on this solo adventure. So hopefully we get to see that. But we've talked enough about me being a son, the children. Let's get into the meat and the potatoes. Well, actually, one more thing, because when you think about the son, right? I thought about me, I thought about Atreus, and then I just correlated to all the children characters. But Thor is the son of Odin, and he's not a child, of course. But think about how that his relationship with his father molded him. That's some powerful stuff. That Thor was a traumatized person. He has some trauma that he put off on his own kid because his father was terrible to him. And I know a lot of other grown people that can relate to that. And that's some strong stuff to put in the game where everybody just wants to fight whatever they can, look at. Like Thor is an important thing to talk about in the Sun section because while he is one of the main antagonists, it's easy to sympathize with him. Not easy, but like when you get down to it, when you get to Asgard and you see how Odin talks to him, and you see how he carries himself, and you see how his relationship with his sons and his daughter, because he was abusive to his sons. If you don't know about the first game, we Kratos and Atreus killed Thor's sons, but one of the sons went back to Asgard and was beaten half to death by Thor. So like he is abusive because his father was abusive, and that doesn't excuse Thor, But this game is talking about generational trauma, generational abuse. And I'm so glad that Thor, in the end, at least, spoilers, got to express his own feelings. You know, he's like, look, man, I've done some terrible things. I cannot change. And I think that was because his father told him he could not change, right? Odin comes up, he says, I tell you to kill, you kill, we don't do anything more than that. And the fact that Thor thought for himself for once and stood up to the person who has beat him down his entire life and he paid for it, that was heartbreaking. But do not let it be discouraging for people who have that struggle. If you have someone that is beating you down, do not be afraid to stand up to them. Now, this ain't no self help, this ain't no therapy session, but I think this game raises an important conversation about generational trauma, especially from our parents. You know, so speaking about parents, we're going to transition into that section of the video because I have a lot to say um, about being a parent, about how the parents were depicted in this game. It was wonderful. So, yeah. So, I just want to say this part I'm really going to ramble on, but that's why I make these videos. I don't really know where to start though, because this game truly made me reevaluate, not reevaluate, but just like think deeper into being a father. Because it just seeing where Kratos' character started and where he is going, where he is presumably going to end, is just so beautiful from the aspect of fatherhood. I mean, hell, you could well, you have to start at the beginning with Kratos, right? Because of, I think his daughter's name was Persephone. So he's been a father from the very beginning. And his rage and his anger and his greed got his family killed. Ares got his family killed, obviously. But, you know, if he hadn't made that deal with Ares, who knows where his family would be right now. And so it's just, it brings up a good discussion seeing where Kratos is now, trusting his son, you know, recognizing his faults. I think one of the most impactful parts of this game for me was when we're leaving, is it Niflheim? I think it's Niflheim. It probably isn't. No, we're leaving Helheim. We're leaving Helheim after turning Garm into Fenrir. And Kratos stops and he just realizes I've fallen back into my old ways. That is super important for a man, for a father to realize because that's how you grow, right? That is how you, you point out where your flaws are and then you improve or you try to improve, but you cannot improve without knowing what areas need improvement. And if you can think back and say, I'm doing what the old version of me used to do, and the old version of me was harmful and toxic, then you know to stop doing that or to try to stop doing that because that's life is to grow and, excuse me, one take, doing it in one take, and to reflect, and especially as a father, especially as the type of father Kratos was, into who he turned into. You know, we see him in 2018 angry at his son, not trusting him until the very end, and still he struggles with that in this game, with Atreus being older, and that's a whole nother lesson in fatherhood. So, like, how it relates to me is that I haven't been a father for that long, but it is an ever growing process. You are always learning. Your kids are teaching you. You have a partner, your partner's teaching you. You have to teach yourself sometimes. The family around you is teaching you. And so it's just a lot of information, a lot of lessons being taught at once. But parenthood is hard. I'm not even going to say just simply fatherhood, because we see the struggles that Freya had as well, with her motherhood. But just for this section, for me, how it relates to me, fatherhood is not easy. I haven't been a father for even 2 years yet, but just how much I have experienced already, and the learning and the growth I have to do as a father for the sake of my children is a lot. But I think that's a huge part of this game, is we have to be better for the sake of our children. We can't fight each other. We can't, go back to our old ways, because our children require better of us. And that's super important, super impactful for me to see that in a character that has, for a long time, exemplified manhood. You think manhood, you think Kratos, big bad God killing God. But this game, it addresses that as well. It addresses what it is to be a man, what it is to be a father. And Kratos is more gentle, more trusting. He listens to people. He's more understanding, patient. That is what it is to be a man, to be a role model, to be a father. And this game really drives that point home. And another point it drives home is the fact that as parents, we do mess up. Kratos at the end of 2018 was a more trusting father, but he wasn't all the way there. In this game, we see him revert back to his old ways, back to his non-trusting ways, back to his, you're going to tell me the truth, son, it's my way or the highway, blah, blah, blah. But he acknowledges that, and that's important that he has that conversation with his son. That's really important for me, because my kids ain't even 5 years old yet. They ain't even as old as Atreus is in 2018. But those discussions are important as soon as you can have them, to tell your child that you messed up. That's very important, to acknowledge your flaws, but also how you want to do better. And then let's compare that to Thor's fatherhood, especially in that bar scene where Thrud sees him at his worst again, at his worst when he was abusing Magni and Modi, where even her mom wasn't right, in a tavern where he was not supposed to be at. And Thor said, excuse my French, I fucked up. But here's the difference between Thor and Kratos. And this is what the game is trying to tell us, I think, is what is the better way to acknowledge your faults. In my opinion, I think that's what the game is trying to tell us. Kratos sits down, he reflects with his son, he initiates the conversation, he is apologetic, and he shows that he wants to do better. Thrud has to talk Thor into saying, I fucked up. And then for the rest of the mission after that, he doesn't even want to think about it. And the only time he wants to do something, quote unquote, good for his family, when it's time to kill Atreus. You know what I mean? So the difference is Kratos had that discussion with Atreus. Thor didn't have that discussion with Thrud. And so who knows what Thrud's thinking? We know Atreus and Kratos' relationship was stronger after that conversation, because Kratos had the, frankly, courage to acknowledge your faults. Because let's talk about that too, right? It is not easy to acknowledge your faults, especially as a parent. You want to think that you're always at your best, but you're human. And this story is so human, but we're going to talk about that later. But as parents, you think you're doing the best. And hell, even in this story, we see Kratos having to shift his way of thinking when it comes to, quote unquote, doing the best. Is it holding on to Atreus tight? No, you're not going to Asgard. No, we're not hunting Tyr, blah, blah, blah. Or is it giving him some freedom, letting him be trusted? Like I said earlier, Atreus says, "Look what I can do when you trust me." That is huge. Excuse me, because like it 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 makes Kratos change his way of thinking. And I think we as parents sometimes need that humbling to say, well, I'm not always right. Hell, I need that humbling. So again, that's why this game was like on so many different layers, man. It's not about just being, oh, a good father, trust your kid, blah blah blah. No, it's different layers, and it shows different types of fathers, because Thor is a very flawed father, but he shows that he loves his daughter. He shows that he is regretful of his abuse to his sons. Now, if we're gonna talk about bad fathers, like 1,000% bad, we gotta talk about Odin, because Odin saw everyone as pawns. Thor was a destroyer. He put that in Thor's mind. You can't convince me otherwise. Boulder was his closer. It wasn't like he was like, damn, you killed my son. No, he's like, Boulder was useful to me. My grandsons were not useful to me. So we get that clear contrast between Kratos, the flawed but trying father, and Odin, who was just the quote unquote all father, but he sucks. So I think that was just seeing that like comparison and that contrast between Kratos, between Thor, Odin, and really this game also touches on the conversation of young men having male role models that aren't their fathers. We thought Tyr would be a role model for Atreus, obviously not. But at the end of the game, he acknowledges Mimir as essentially his second father. And that's important, right? Because, yes, a young man, in my opinion, needs his father. But let's say he's not available for whatever reason. That additional man in his life, whether he has a father and that man or just that man, is super important. And Mimir was super important for Atreus' growth. And I'm glad the game touches on that and acknowledges fathers are great, fathers are necessary, but they are not end all be all. So I think that encapsulates my thoughts on like how fatherhood was depicted in this game, and honestly, it was a breath of fresh air. Because I especially after becoming a father, I love seeing male role models, fathers in video games, because it's a very interactive and important medium. And like one of the only other ones I could like think of off the top of my head is Joel. I love Joel, and maybe I'll do a Last of Us video one of these days. But yeah, I just love seeing great fathers. And excuse me, this kind of segues into the last segment of the video, which is how human this story was. It's titled God of War. You are surrounded by Freya, goddess of the Vanir, Odin, Thor, Aesir gods, but damn, is it a human story? Like, these people have human problems, and that's just beautiful to me. So, we're gonna get into the last section, the humanity. Back in 2018, when the like full ending of God of War, like the secret ending of God of War got revealed and everybody saw it was Thor, it was hype because everybody was like, "Oh shoot, we're gonna fight Thor!" Like I'm thinking personally, I thought we was gonna fight Thor like first 10 minutes out the gate. Thor pop up at the crib and we fighting him and we kill him. That's what everybody thought. I think so anyway. And what we got was totally different, and I'd say much, much better. God of War Ragnarok is a story filled with, let's say, I'm trying to avoid the word gods, but I'll just say gods. A story filled with gods that have human problems: alcoholism, abusive father, living up to your father. What else? Mourning your children, mourning your family in general, wanting to live a life that you used to but you can't anymore. I mean, it's just so much going on, and it's so relatable because there is no way that I would have thought I would relate to the man that was too angry to die. Like, that's insane to me. But it's what makes this game so beautiful, what makes this game uh, so such an experience to play is that you're helping these people work through their stuff. Like, at first, I wanted to kill Thor. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And at the end, I still semi wanted to kill Thor, but like they were talking to him because he has a daughter, and Kratos sees that. Kratos sees the humanity in Thor. It's like, listen, you're not a great person, but you're also a father, and maybe we can do something with that. Because we're all work in progresses. Even quote unquote gods that are just so much higher above everyone else. Even Odin, such a mad grab for power. But who doesn't want to have so much knowledge that you know your path? A lot of people have like genuine issues when they can't control the situation. Not like in the sense where like, oh, I have to be in control of everything, but like if someone's hurting and you want to help them but you can't, that type of control, that type of knowledge of what to do, how to do it, everybody wants that. And the thing with Odin is he went crazy for it, but that's just like he's the extreme version of reality, which is why I love him. All the characters in this were great, and honestly, if I like rewatched everything, I could break every character down and why I love them so much and blah blah blah. And that's what these videos are for. But I'm not gonna do that with this one. I just want to like really express how human this story was. I loved it. Obviously, you could tell I loved it from the video being 30 plus minutes. But so we're getting to the tail end of this. What I'm gonna do is just talk about a few of my favorite scenes from the game, and we're gonna finish it off there. So to start off with my favorite parts of the game, I will add the honorable mention, and I know if you watch my gameplay, I feel like you're gonna be surprised by what I'm about to say, but there's a reason for it. Honorable mention is fighting Heimdall. Yes, I know that I made it seem like I hated this man's guts and I wanted nothing more but to kill him. That is very true. And when I did get to fight him and kill him, oh, it was one of the most gratifying gaming moments in like ever. That's how amazing it felt for me. But it is not number one because of the story implications. So like, that Kratos wasn't supposed to kill Heimdall. I mean, he quote unquote was, that was his prophecy, but he shouldn't have because of prophecy. Am I making sense? So that's why it's not number one, or not on the list. It should be number one. But I'm just gonna do my top three because I could list like 20 and go in depth on all of them. So my third favorite part of the game was talking to the Norns. Just like the whole vibe of it, it was kind of mysterious, kind of intimidating. How they kind of just like was like, oh yeah, we know everything, but not because we're just smarter or better than you. It's just y'all are boring. But and the music, how like the dialogue was like already presented to us by one of the Norns, but still it was just like that just kind of showed off how powerful. I know she said they weren't powerful, but I think they're pretty powerful. They just showed off their power. Like, yeah, we know what you're gonna say. That's how far ahead of we are. But this scene was also really cool for me because you got to see Kratos. Like I said, when we heard about Atreus about to get hurt, that's all he heard. He's like, "Oh wait, Heimdall? I'm gonna kill him." Simple as that. And the, the mocking they did of him, and the whole build up to the Norns, with them showing Freya, Mimir, and Kratos their memories and stuff like that. That was insane. Just because, like, I can't talk. I can't talk. But we're gonna do one thing, because I don't have time to make this perfect. That's why I'm a little choppy, by the way. Um, so the build up was really cool because it was nice seeing our characters kind of like relive some very torturous stuff, or like for Mimir, yeah, seeing his physical regrets right in front of him. So for number 3, the Norns were really cool. They were damn sure worth the trip. And so for number 2, we're gonna go back to when the spear was made. And this is my second favorite part in the game because it is such a monumental moment. I think Kratos and Brock. And I can't tell you who it is more important to, because for Kratos, this is his first weapon. Like, if you look online, a lot of people will have the same sentiment, but I agree with it, so that's why I'm like echoing it. The Blades of Chaos, they were given to him by Ares. They were the cause of torment for years and years until he changed their meaning. The Leviathan Axe was bestowed to him by Faye, which is great because we love Faye and we love this axe. But the spear is his. It goes back to his history, who he is as a person, a Spartan. That, like, it was made specifically for him with his blood, and the mermaid was just so cool. Like, just I think that was the first time we've seen one in this series. So to see her like in all her glory, that was really cool, and just how the spear was made. And this is the first time I had heard of Dropnir, but Dropnir is a really cool concept actually. And yeah, the blade, like especially when we got his blood, and it was the God of War symbol, or the Omega symbol, and then it was a Spartan symbol. Like that perfectly encapsulates Kratos. That it his what's the line? His form, right, but his nature is what matters. That was one of my favorite lines in the game. Uh, but anyway, and then for Brock, the realization that he died and what Kratos did for him, for like by complimenting him and saying, "Well, if the mermaid can't bless us, at least you can." Like that's huge, especially for Kratos to do, to actually compliment someone and to have people he cares about. That was amazing to see, and it was well earned, because Brock, like, he's been lied to by his brother for good, semi good reason. Sindri had good intentions, and he just found out he's missing a part of his soul, and that is huge. And for Kratos to do this gesture for him, and the music was perfect, and Brock's wisdom came through like perfectly. Because throughout the whole game, it's just like, oh my goodness, Brock is being stupid Brock again. But no, it was in this scene he showed us a different version of him. He was timid with the mermaid, the lady. That's her name, the lady. He was timid with her, and he showed so much grief over his own death. I love seeing those emotions from Brock. I love seeing Kratos be compassionate and being empathetic to Brock's emotions. That was just such an emotional and phenomenal scene. So that's why it's my number 2 spot. And for my number 1, this was really hard because it was between three parts of the game. So I'm gonna tell you the one I'm not choosing at all is from Ragnarok, like when it actually happened. There are so many parts in Ragnarok that were cool, but I'm not gonna include them in the list. What was most impactful for me in this game, what was my favorite thing seeing, is two parts. I'm just gonna combine them. When Atreus returned from Asgard, and when Kratos and Atreus were about to leave Helheim. In those two moments, Kratos showed phenomenal parenting. I talked about it earlier in sections where he was reflecting upon how he is falling back into his old toxic ways and that he wants to be better. And especially when Atreus first got there, because you imagine Kratos is pissed. He's like, "Oh yeah, when Atreus get back, I'm gonna blah blah blah." At least that's what the player was thinking. But when he actually got back, the first thing he did was help him up, and the second thing was ask him his name. He wasn't like, "Oh son, you're gonna tell me the truth," blah blah blah. No, his only concern was his son's safety, and that was huge to see that level of like reflection from Kratos. Because yes, he could have been extremely mad at Atreus, he could have yelled at him, he could have blah blah blah. But he did what a father should do, which is first check on the safety of his child, check on his son's mental health. What should I call you? And then the hug of Atreus, where he's just so regretful. He's like, I just messed up so much. And his father is the one that's there to help guide him through this tough time. It's such a beautiful moment. And then the two of them reflect with each other. Well, without you, I was reckless. Without you, I was distrustful and angry. And it's just such a beautiful relationship these two have with each other, because they build off each other in such healthy ways. But at the end of the game, we see that they will be okay without each other. But I just think that part, I guess from when Atreus returns to the end of that entire GOWR quest, was just so good, because the conversations they had were important too, about honesty. See what I can do when you trust me. Stuff like that. And at the end of the game, we see the culmination of that, which was so beautiful. But seeing it begin, seeing that spark in Kratos ignite into a full-on flame, was my favorite part of the game for sure. And I think that's why I love this game so much. Because as a father, we got to see Kratos become so much better. And because it was really fun killing Heimdall. So to conclude my 40-minute rambling, I think I kind of got most of my thoughts out of just why I love this game so much. Such a beautiful addition to Kratos' story. Such a beautiful continuation to Atreus' story, and I can't wait to see more of what that young man becomes. Yeah, God of War Ragnarok will probably be in my top 5 favorite games for a very long time, because it's just that good. So not much more to say. But I do want to say, actually, now that I think about it, this is the first YouTube series that I completed. And when I tell you I wanted to do a YouTube series for years, when I was watching Dashy when I wasn't supposed to because my parents found out he was cursing, I wanted to be like Dashy. I wanted to make YouTube videos like him. And to be able to do that where I am in this stage of my life, and to have people that'll watch it, really, really is amazing. So I'm thankful to God that I am where I am right now. Thankful to the people in my life that are being supportive of me right now. Even if you're just watching, I don't know, how many seconds you have to watch for it to count as a view, but hell, if you're just doing that, that means the world to me, because I don't know where I can go with this, but I know it is something I just love doing, and I hope that my love of this medium is infectious, and it gives a lot of people the love that I have as well. So yeah, thank you again. And at the time of this recording, at the time of this video, which is Wednesday, January 18th, I just started school, so things are about to be, how should I say, videos are about to be very, like, the consistency is slowed down, because I was doing a video a day with the God of War series, but it has to slow down. It's my last semester in college, so I gotta prioritize. But I will be back, and I'm gonna still make videos. Callisto Protocol, at the time of this recording, is not finished, so I have a lot of editing to do. But just so you all know, if you're watching this and you're wondering why videos slowed down, that's why. One more time, I know I've said this already. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble for almost 45 minutes. I know you didn't watch all of it, but that's okay. I still greatly appreciate you. And with that, I will talk to you all later.